Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked. Brad and I are continuing the top 100 games of all time, 40 through 31, the top fourth of this entire top 100. That is, you know what we really need to do next year? We need to sit down for, let's see, there's 10 segments. We do about 2 hours. Somehow we're able to talk for 2 hours, even though other people can do three people for less time.
Yes.
Um, but we needed to sit down one day and for 20 hours and do all of it so
Jeez.
that it's not obsolete as soon as we get to this part. But
Yeah.
that's part of the fun, ain't it?
Yeah.
Ain't it? All right. I don't have any more stats, nor do I really care. I'm tired. So, but this is going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, me too.
I, I have one, two, three that fell, three that are new, and four that rose.
See, mine's pretty similar. I have two that fell, three that's new, and five that is
Five that
that
are new. You got
rose.
five whole new ones.
Five, well,
Um,
three brand new ones, five that rose.
oh, five that rose. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so three new ones. Sweet. All right. Well, without any more preamble, let's go ahead and get started with my number 40, which was 20 last year, so it fell a decent amount, and it was 19 the year before. This has fallen just because I have not played it, although I actually aim to start a new mini series on it, just to get it back up on the channel to better quality, and that is
Yeah. Yeah.
this War of Mine. To my knowledge, at least this was Awaken Realms like first foray into the industry. If it's not their first game, then it's their first game that I was aware of. But I'm pretty sure this was their first one.
I think so
Uh,
too.
so this is based off the kind of like survival indie video game where you play as civilians in a war-torn city. And it's this probably was one of the first games that I got into that had kind of like a narrative element to it. At least as deep and as serious as this was. Like, this is not necessarily for the faint of heart. And I remember when this came out, a lot of people were like, how can you have fun with a game like this? And it's like, because it's a game and I can disassociate or I can separate reality from a game. Um, and I mean, if you're unable to do that, then this game is definitely not for you. It's very heavy. It's very real in a lot of the situations that can happen. But at the end of the day, it's a resource management survival game. You have to face elements. You have this shitty ass house that you're holed up in with just random people. And the interesting thing about this, and not many games do this, is you are not a character in this. You as players control all the characters and kind of program them and put them in certain situations. Like you might be like, okay, well, for this phase, we're gonna actually send people off to go scouting. But while they're doing that, these other people are going to be clearing up the basement clearing up the rubble in the basement while someone else goes and thinks of an idea that might be a simple bed. And they all do that at the same time, so you can't like, oh, I'm going to clear the rubble and then put the bed there. It's like, no, they're all doing kind of like Robinson Crusoe.
Right.
And then when you go out scouting, you have to deal with the hazards of leaving leaving the safety of your home. And if you completely leave it unguarded, because you have to leave people awake to guard the house, it might get completely overrun by bandits or raiders or whoever it might be. Um, but there's different statuses that you have to have on these people. They could be miserable, they could be tired, they could get sick, and these characters can die, and that affects others in the house. It's definitely nowadays kind of ahead of its time as we look
Yeah.
back. It did a lot of stuff that some games do now that this was doing way before. So,
Didn't this one have the it was one of the first ones I recall having where you didn't read the rule book, like it taught you as you went through. even
I
though,
forgot about that. Yeah,
yeah,
it was meant to be played like right out the box. You were supposed to, you're given like a journal is kind of what it's called, and you just open it up and it tells you kind of what to do, and you just do that as a round, and you're supposed to discover the rules as you play. Like if you happen to come across a certain story section, it's actually a rule. And I see what they were going for, almost like a tutorial thing where something new happens in a video game. It's just like, oh, hey, here's how this works. I personally don't like that in board games. I like to know everything that I'm able to do, especially with how difficult this game is. But I guess there's a certain level of charm to that because you don't have the upfront rules of, hey, here's a 40-page rule book. Either way, this game has, I mean, constantly been in the top 50 for sure. It's been in my top 10. Um, but yeah, just for some reason I haven't gotten it to the table, and it's because campaign games I like to record now, so it's hard for me to play them without it being for the channel. But
yeah,
I believe I have removed this game from the channel, my old series on it, because I plan on redoing it. So at some point in the future, keep an eye out for that. And that's my number 40, this war of mine,
good choice. I didn't mind the game. It was just I just never knew I wasn't ever going to play it that much. So that's why I
which is
got rid of it
surprising
and
because
stuff.
this is like the perfect solo game.
It is, but there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's for the same reason, I guess. I don't like Spirit Island solo either, even though that one's supposed to be one of the best solo games out there. It's just because
Yeah,
there's a
that's
lot of
true.
crap to. So
Yeah,
I
you
don't.
like shitty solo games.
Well,
Like Proving Grounds and
no, I don't like
Undaunted.
Proving Grounds.
Oh, okay, good. You've come around.
Yeah, I own it just because I'm a completionist. But
Yeah,
all right, my number 40 is a new one to my list,
nice.
and this one was it's a re-implementation of a game that I wanted for years and years and years. It was out of print, and I wasn't going to pay an arm and a leg for it. But then this Kickstarter came out with the Stefan Feld City Collection, with these really deluxe, fancified versions of these games. They just changed the name of the game and kind of updated the stuff. And that is Hamburg,
Oh, okay,
which
yeah.
is the reimplementation of Bruges, which is a game that I really wanted to play, never did, obviously, get a
Hmm.
hold of it because it was super freaking expensive. Um, but I got a hold of this one, and actually, order of operations. I actually played Bruges at somebody's house for a gathering a year or two ago. Loved it so much, knew I couldn't buy it, so then I bought this. I found a copy of this on a fairly cheap to get it, but this
Nice.
one, these deluxe versions are like have all the game trays and just everything just to the max.
Hmm.
Um, but like this one right here sells for like 140. Like it just the game, but I got it for like 100. But it's like
Jeez.
it's topped out, like all the components are crazy in it. But anyway, what if you like um multi-use cards, then this is gonna make you like cream yourself because the whole point of this game, each card has 5 different things it can be used for.
Okay.
So I mean that's more than the average of
That's
that.
more than the
Usually it's
average one thing it could be used for.
right. So like you can use a card to um build a city wall that you need. You can activate these boats. You can build a plot to start building buildings, or you can play it to build a building. There's all these different things you can do with it. Um, but what is interesting with this is you there's going to be dice that get rolled at the beginning of each round, one of each color, and then those are going to set up what the uh, like the there could be a bad thing that happens, like and you're going to take these deals, and if you get multiple of those bad penalties, then or bad things happen to you, then you get a penalty. It's like if you get 3 bad black or pink things on you, whatever that one is, then you get a penalty which costs you at the end, so you need to be trying to get rid of them as the game goes. But the art is different in this. Like I like the art of the original Bruges better than this. This kind of did like what the Village big box did. There was the Village, and then they've kind of like a more modern-y looking
Yeah.
board. The Bruges is more like the old style, uh, Euro looking type thing. But this one's
Okay.
still, I mean, this is pretty much the exact game. And what this actually, when you get this, it actually comes with what expansions came for Bruges in this box as well.
Okay.
But there's a lot of symbols. There's a learning curve with this one. I mean, as you can see, those cards. I mean, there's a shit ton of stuff on each card.
Yeah.
That you can use it for and everything. But once you get the hang of it, this game is pretty fucking cool. This one would have the opportunity, I would think, to be another Stefan Feld you might like.
Okay.
Because I know you said the only one you liked is.
I lied.
Okay.
Because obviously I played Castle of Burgundy, was on my list, and then in the Year of the Dragon, I have played Marrakesh. I think it was his other one that had like
Yeah.
18 mini games in it. I think he's actually making an expansion for it. It's not Marrakesh. Um,
I know which one you're talking about, though.
yeah,
I mean,
I'll see if I can find it, but it definitely is Stefan Feld. And that one was okay, but because I remember that came out around the same time this city collection was coming around, and I was like, eh.
these
I
were
told you he's spelled
this,
Stefan.
this
Oh,
it's
A-N.
yeah, but this Kickstarter, when it came, had 4 games that came with it, the city collection
Yeah.
one, and it was just bonkers, the cost, man. It was just like, and
Yeah, like, and that's why I was like, is that a Queen Games thing?
I don't know, but
I oh,
this is I mean, I've played a couple of them off of the city deal. This one's still my favorite, just because I love the multi-use cards. There's so much you can do on a turn.
gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
Marrakesh
yeah,
is actually, yeah, that's part of his city
yeah,
collection number 4. That's the one I've played. I only used one R when trying to spell it.
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it was okay.
Yeah,
Like,
this
I don't
one I
know,
think you'd have a chance of liking. I
of
think.
getting super into.
Well, I mean,
Well, I can tell you, I'm
I'm not going
definitely
to
not
say it's
paying
going to be your favorite.
$100.
No, I know. It's not going to be like. I'm not saying it's going to be your favorite thing in the world, but it's like of the games you've played. I think this one has an opportunity because there's a lot of decision making with the cards. You get to
Yeah.
decide. You need to build a plot before you can build the building, but then it's kind of a race game too, because you're trying to race up certain tracks to get
Okay.
deals and everything. I don't know. It's just one of those that just hit right with me. But yeah, I mean, it's a good one. It's expensive, but if you can find Bruges, it's the exact same game with just different art. I mean,
Okay.
this
Good
is just
deal.
updated with deluxe components.
Cool. All right. I mean, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
My number 39, this is almost criminal to have it actually this high, and it even has a chance to go higher if I get it played even more. Um, because of the circumstances that this game ended up dealing with. Um, my number 39 is Six
Yes.
Siege, the board game. This is new to my list. Unfortunately, it has that tiny little shit stain at the bottom right on its board that soiled it. Um, but this was one that, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the video game. I have played it, and I played it more than my fair share. Uh, but around the time that I had backed this, I was actually playing the game. I'm like, okay, this could be really cool. And then obviously all the fraud and corruption of Mythic Games that it's a shit show. It's definitely an interesting case study if anyone wanted to just research that, because this company has um I think the owner or CEO put out this massive statement that I've read on Reddit, and I'm like, man, you need to just like lay low. Anyway, it's unfortunate because this game is very, very good. It is easily one of the best skirmish games I have played. And to replicate the video game, the chaos and the precision of the video game, It's really amazing. They were able to take this squad-based attack defender skirmish game and replicate it so well. So you have a squad of five, and you have your attacker and defender, and you have a ton of different maps and maps that are, lean towards being easier for the attacker, lean towards being easier for the defender. No rules really, except just picking your attack, in terms of squad. Like how you want to build them. You can just pick five of your favorite. You can go for a theme. You can randomize it. And they all have their own individual like kind of weapons and different dice that they roll and their actual um their actual abilities that replicate who they are in the video game as close as it possibly could be as a board game. Because have you ever played Six Siege?
No.
Okay. So at the very beginning of a round, you actually have the attackers have kind of like this bot phase where they have a little remote control camera that they roll around. And the whole point of that is to kind of scout and see who's on the enemy side. Well, there is none of that in this because it's already set up. But what they did is as the defender, you have two tokens. One is a decoy and the other is where you actually are at. So there's a slight hidden element for every one of the defenders that as the attacker, you have to gauge out and try and maneuver and use your stuff, use cameras, use gadgets, shoot them to try and see if that's actually them. Um, but it's this game wouldn't be as good if it wasn't real time, honestly. And you can alternate the difficulty of the real time situation where depending on if I played this a lot and you were learning for the first time, I could actually make it to where I have less time on my turn and you have more time
Gotcha.
because each phase it goes attacker, defender, and that's the end of a round and it lasts 5 rounds. And whenever it's your turn, you activate up to three of your operatives in each phase, but you can't really think that much because if you run out of time, then you're just done. If I run out of time before the end of the round, then you just get to keep going as long as, as much time as you're allowed. And that can be really crucial. And it allows you to kind of make mistakes whenever you're really kind of keeping an eye on the clock and you're like, I'm gonna run through here. And it's like, I'm actually looking that way, so I'm gonna shoot at you. And it's like, I didn't even see him because
Yeah.
it has that chess element, where you're trying to stop the clock to give yourself more time for the next phase. So I know you're not the biggest fan of real time. However, it really amplifies it here. Otherwise, it would be very slow, very methodical, and it
Right.
wouldn't be as exhilarating if it wasn't included here.
Yeah.
So I'm just incredibly impressed with this game. Definitely rewards more plays and more plays on specific maps. Like I've played against a friend who had played this way more than I have, and just the way he understood the map more so than I did was, I mean, it was debilitating on my end. And yeah, it's just amazing. Now, there's a slight silver lining to all this. And this is complete rumor. I believe someone let me know in one of my comments. The app that you use for this game is under Steamforged.
Interesting.
So the theory or the rumor is that Steamforged is going to pick this up, which say what you will about Steamforged, they definitely can keep IP games running.
Right.
Like as long as they are not designing games, as long as they're not changing anything about this, but they
Right.
are going to support it and, do what they did with Street Masters, for example, I'm all for it. So, because there's a ton of characters in this game. But there's even more that have already been released for the video game, and it would be awesome if they actually supported it as, up to where the video game is at.
Right.
So, not sure if that means anything. Could just be an app thing where they took it over, but it is kind of suspicious where Mythic Games has sold off some of their games to Simon and other companies that Steamforge wouldn't pick this up and work with Ubisoft, considering that they've done Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Monster Hunter. I mean, this
Yep.
would be right up their alley to pick up. So only time will tell what happens. But if you can find a copy of this and you love skirmish games, this is definitely one to grab. Unfortunately, it's going to be it's going to be fucking expensive.
Yep.
Unless
I bet it
Steamforge
is.
picks it up, which
Yeah.
it would still be slightly expensive, but probably way cheaper if they ran another crowdfunding thing.
Right.
So, yeah, this is my number 39, Six Siege.
All right. Good choice. All right. My number 39 is a game that's been on my list for a long time. It was 41 last year, and it was 34 the year before that. So it's just kind of like hanging in this area. I think that's kind of where it's going to be. It's a 14-year-old game. Richard Lanius and Kevin Wilson that we talked about
Oh yeah, old
Fire yesterday.
K-Dog, yeah.
Yeah. Came out with this, and I don't think you really cared for it the first time you played it, but we need to try it again, and that is Elder Sign.
We really don't need to try it again. Come on.
I mean, you don't have to. That's fine. I just this one is pretty much it's obviously an Arkham game, but you are using like the Yahtzee style dice rolling deal to work your way through. Now, if you just play the base box or the first expansion, it's just in the library or in the
Museum.
The museum. That's what I was going to say. But and that's kind of boring and old after a while and stuff like that. But when they turned their direction and went to a more thematic locations and stuff, which changed the game up a bunch and added a lot more theme and a little bit of story to it and stuff, that's when it's really started to shine. There's just all kinds. There's when you're Arctic and Egypt. There's a train one. There's all different kinds. You're out in the ocean. There's all these different ones that you can do now. But pretty much what you're doing is there's going to be all these things that are out on the table. You're rolling dice to try to get clues or just different odds and ends. You're trying to kill enough stuff and do all this stuff. It's against a clock because the great old one's going to come out at one point after enough omens, and then you're kind of screwed. But this is just a fast-paced version. This was because I wasn't into that whole Cthulhu mythos stuff as much back in the day. I had played Arkham Horror and stuff like that, but and I got this because it plays awesome solo, and so it kind of was my dipping my toe in that world a little bit. But then I've kind of went kind of crazy in the Arkham stuff, not as much as you, but pretty up there with Arkham LCG and Cthulhu Death May Die, just all these different things now.
Yeah, it's funny that like you don't like the super popular games like Pandemic or Arkham, like which Arkham at that time would have been super popular, but you like their shittier dice version.
I like dice. I like dice.
No, you don't. Like you play a bunch of Euros, which I guess you like dice work replacement.
Right, yeah, you have to roll the dice to replace them. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean this was one that was an early game for me, like when I got back into the stuff, so this was kind of one that's just kind of just stayed with me. I have everything out for this game. I have the cool broken token like wooden storage box that's like looks like the museum on the outside, and it comes off and it's got all the sort stuff in it and everything.
God, is broken token even still around?
I don't know.
With like 3D printing, it's like
who
wants a massive wooden thing anymore?
Yeah. I know there's still some like Go 7 Gaming still does wooden inserts and stuff, but
yeah,
with folded space and with 3D printing and all that different stuff now, it's just kind of like
putting together like I've gotten some wooden inserts for other games, and I'm like, if this makes me use glue, I hate it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So 3D printing is the way to go if you have ways to get stuff for sure. But yeah, this one's one that, like I said, it's always going to be around here just because it's a quick play and a quick setup. You just kind of toss the stuff out and go, and yeah. I mean, if you like Cthulhu stuff, this is a good quick one to pick up.
Nice. Yeah, this one never really did it for me. And I know that, like you said, there's other areas and other expansions you can try. But I think at this point,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point it would be like, oh yeah, this is a little bit better. I still don't like it, you know? That's how I
Mhm.
feel it would go down.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I can't imagine there's a world where like it's so good I now have to go out and get everything for Elder Sign.
Yeah. The only thing that pissed me off about this game was I wanted a second set of dice
Oh yeah,
because they give you just that one basic set, and I'm just like, they don't, every other game they came out with, they at that time and around there, they were selling dice sets for,
that's
Mansions of
true.
Madness. They sold extra dice sets, all these different things, and they never did for this. And I'd have to buy
Yeah.
like a second core box just to get another set of dice,
I
and I'm
mean,
not
do you
going to do
need
that.
them though
So
if you're playing solo?
sometimes you roll more than what you have, but I mean,
Oh,
it's not
okay.
like a big thing. It's not like a
Gotcha.
big, So that's why I really haven't pursued it a whole lot. But
Nice. All
yep.
right. My number 38, Rose. For some reason, I really have no idea why. It rose a lot too. It was 70 last year and 20 the year before. I haven't played this. So I think just again, I think there's gonna be those outlier games that through the Pub Meeple ranking, it's gonna pair them against games that like it's like, oh, I like this better than every game it's going against. And I'm again very, very curious that because this year I included every game, unlike the past couple years, like last year for sure, where I curated the options. I think this is why it's so high. I do really like this game, and it's one of those games it's super high if I play it, and it falls if I don't, except this case, and that is
Yeah.
Nemesis. Uh, and it's I mean Awaken Realms again, first of all, but this is clearly Alien the game. I don't know how they got away with that design. Um, I know they call them intruders, and but the design is so close that who knows. But if you want a insane atmospheric experience. Now, this game is long, and do not play it with max players. That is pure just disaster. I'd say four. Four is a solid number for this. But if you want a like an awesome, enriching, theme-dripping game, Nemesis is really it for you. If you like semi-cooperative that typically doesn't work in many games, but absolutely works here, Nemesis is the game for you. It's I mean, I have played this relatively recently. I showed it to three new people, and it just clicked for them, and it was an awesome experience. But whenever you are playing, your the card play for it, where that determines your actions, the noise that you're making, where aliens can pop out, and the fact that if anyone is unaware and they have this game, the most fiddly part of this game is that bag element where it determines how, the types of aliens that come out because there's like the face huggers and there's like the young aliens and they go into adult and then the potentially the queen. Those are all tokens that eventually get upgraded in the bag. There's an app for this game that does all that for you. So fuck that bag, that fiddly upgrading shit. Like use the app because it's gonna streamline this game, which kind of does need streamlined. I know Mike off of the Dice Tower says this game is very fragile. I do definitely see where he's coming from because if you allow for a second of like any type of disassociation or distraction, this game can kind of fall apart. But the really cool thing about this game that makes the semi-cooperative worth it is everyone's on the same side up until the first alien shows up. So it allows people to kind of explore the ship, flip tiles, check how the engines are doing, check where the course is headed. Uh, because you have two objectives. You have a public one, which is like for the not a public one, but you have one for the corporation and you have a private one. And the corporation is usually I mean, not usually, it is the one where you're against other players. But so the game gets to play for a little bit. You get to kind of see how the things are turning out. And then as soon as the first alien comes out, that's when people decide where, how they want to go. And what makes that really interesting is that let's say it's four players, you're player three, and I happen to have an objective that needs you to die. and you are the one that causes noise in the shower, and that's where the alien pops out. I'm just like, oh, would you look at that? I think I'll
Yeah.
choose this, but it's secret. No one knows. And the other interesting thing is you cannot, if you need other people to die, you cannot directly interact with them. I can't run into the other room and start shooting you.
Right.
But what I can do is I could throw a grenade in the room and be like, I'm trying to kill the alien. I really hope this works out. And I happen to kill the alien, but I injure you in the process. It's like, hey, you'll be fine. We'll find the med bay. But there's very passive aggressive ways that you can fuck over other people, and I really, really like that. Um, it's just such an awesome game, especially if you love the Alien movies. This is probably more thematic to the Alien franchise than the Legendary Encounters Alien game or whatever
Right.
game is actually
Yeah,
from
probably.
that IP. So it is it is just an incredible experience. And they have other aliens like Carnomorphs and I think Void Seekers. I still to this day haven't tried the Void Seekers. I've tried the Carnomorphs a little bit, and then they have two other like standalone box sets, Lockdown and the newest one, um, Retribution,
Retaliation or retribution,
something like
something like
that.
that. Yeah.
Yep, Retaliation. Now, what they actually have for this that I do own is called Aftermath, and it's like a side story where it's like hey, you play it after this, you play a regular game of Nemesis, and then you play Aftermath, which is kind of like a separate crew that is going to your board state. And they're showing up to the ship after everything that just happened. Kind of like a
Gotcha.
Dead Space scenario where
Right.
you're playing Dead Space and it's like, oh, what the fuck happened here? Still haven't tried that. That's just kind of how much content that you really don't need for this game. But I've been intrigued by Lockdown and from what I've heard, Lockdown is very similar to this, and Retaliation is the most different. But I mean, I just mentioned a bunch of shit for this game that I haven't even tried. I don't ever really feel like I need that other stuff except that I just want it. So, so yeah, it's again, it is if you're playing a full player count, it's awful. It's so unnecessarily long, but at the perfect number, this is one of the best like horror co-op, semi-cooperative games you can get.
Yeah.
So that's my number 38, Nemesis.
Good choice. I've always thought about getting into this, but I was like, I'm so far behind, and there's so much crap out there for it now. It's just like I'm just not gonna worry about it. But yeah. All
That's
right.
fair.
My number 38 was 77 last year,
Ooh,
but
we
it was
both had
30,
games shoot up.
but it was 37 the year before. So it
Yeah.
kind of bounces around. This one's a lot lighter than this game. This was one I finally got to play a little bit because I don't think I played it a whole lot last year. That's why I kind of fell, but then I got to play it again this year some, and it still holds up strong. And that is
Ooh,
Seven Wonders.
nice.
This one,
Look at this gross first edition.
this is the one I have. This is but anyway, this is the kind of the granddaddy of the card drafting games, and it's a fairly simple game to teach too. I mean, you're just grabbing a card. Everybody grabs a card, lay it down, pass it the direction you're supposed to go on, grab a card, play it, pass it. It's super simple. You're doing set collection, you're doing all these different things, but holy crap. All right. So anyway,
Don't do this.
This is a good example though. This game plays the exact same with 3 as it does with 7. This one's my go-to game if I have a big number playing because it doesn't change how you play. You're always interacting with your person to the left or the right.
Yeah.
And that's it. So the only thing that changes is the drafting, of course, but you have more cards that you get to draft, that go around in the draft and everything. They need a bigger table here. But yeah, so you're building all these Tableau stuff. You're getting the resources to be able to use those resources to help you build other things. There's that chaining thing that they started with this that you see in like in Seven Wonders Duel and all that stuff now, where if you have that chain, you can build it for free.
Everdell has that.
Yep. So it's like, and all the while, I mean, you make a decision with your cards that you draft. You can just ditch the card you draft for money. You can place it down in your tableau to help you out, or you can turn it face down and if you fit the requirements, you can build a part of your wonder. And it's just one of those classic games. I mean, this one also came out in 2010. So this was 15
wow.
years old
Okay.
now. But yeah, I mean, this one's still just awesome. There is a second edition out there that changes up the art a little bit. It has you where your cards stack straight up instead of going at an angle like that. But
yeah, it's a little bit cleaner. I know they balanced some of the wonders.
Yeah.
Made new expansions for it, which I haven't tried the newest one.
The only thing, I mean, I have everything out for this one. Like I have through Armada, I think, but I just didn't feel the need to go back and buy everything again, because
that's fair.
We get enough enjoyment out of this one and stuff like that. So anyway,
yeah, this one definitely isn't on my list, but mainly because I can't get it played. Although funny enough, it is relatively close. It's 126.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said definitely, like it was like 400 or something. This one is fucking not even. It's wow. Can't believe it's on your list. No, this game is great whenever it does get played.
Well, this is still one of my wife's favorite games. That's why it always.
Now she likes this one better than Duel, right? Or do I have that wrong?
It's about the same.
Oh, okay.
It just depends. I mean, this was the first one I got her into and stuff. Nice. So I think
did she like the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth?
I haven't done it with her yet.
Wow.
Well, I will
in Paradise.
No, it's
some like weird rumor.
I'm not sure how much of Lord of the Rings she really is into, but I'm going to try it anyway just to see. Like
it's I see. You're talking to a divorce lawyer.
No.
I see how that makes sense. Nice. Yeah, great pick.
Nope.
All right, my number 37 is also an old game. I would argue more successful than this one. I don't even have to argue. I could probably actually look up the numbers on how many copies mine sold. It's new to the top 100 and is not a new game. It was 127 last year and 148 the year before. And that is Codenames.
Really?
It's so funny. This is considering Codenames Duel as well. Every situation that I have where I can just play in a casual setting, Codenames is just the game that I pick. Like especially Codenames Duel. This is one of my favorite kind of, I don't know what you would call that genre, but that kind of word game. Like not spelling like Scrabble or something, but I love these kind of word association games. I am horrible at it because no one ever gets my clues. And then I try to curate my clues to make it like, it's like, oh, okay, this is how they're going to think. This is how I'll start giving clues. And then they reverse and try and think like me. And then it just ends up being horrible. And I'm the worst teammate to have. But I love these games. And if you're weirdly unfamiliar with Codenames, you are given a row or a set of 5x5 cards. I usually have a picture with it, but unfortunately hey, there we go. In regular Codenames, you're on a team. You're on yellow and blue. Yellow, wow, I'm not colorblind. Red and blue. And you have a grid on your side, and the opposing team has a grid on their side that will be in your color that associates to these words. And what you were trying to do is you were trying to give a one-word clue that allows your teammate to get as many words of yours as possible. So, for example, I'm going to be horrible at putting
I would say
yeah,
rhyme too.
Rhymed. Oh, round and pound. Yeah, see? Yeah, that's good. But So, because I was gonna go kitchen 3, and don't know, like, see if you would. What would you guess? Because in my head,
I'd,
I'm thinking,
I'd say sink, water, and I don't know. I don't know what the other one would be.
but
Yeah,
let's say because there was sink and water, that was 2 of them, and you could stop.
right.
You don't have to go up to that number. It was chick, by the way.
Okay.
Because women in the no, I'm kidding. I was thinking chicken. Um, but for
Hey,
example,
Butker.
uh, what?
Okay, Butker.
Oh, I'm a piece of shit. But Brad could think stick. Oh, stick of butter and pick that, and that could be for the opposing team. And Codenames Duel is basically that exact same game, except it's for 2 players. Um, I love it. I love that puzzle element. I love that seeing your words and then you look at the board and you're like, how the fuck am I supposed to even come up with one hint? Um, the app is finally out for this, which is amazing.
Yeah, I
The app
heard it
is
was
so
good.
good. So, yeah, this is just one of my favorite word association games, and it's just a game that I bring with me. And because Codenames and Codenames Duel, you just combine the cards. You have an infinite amount of plays plays with this. And also, again, it's not just trying to beat your opponent to get, the your words first. Every every team has an assassin, which is the black token. And if your teammate guesses that card, you instantly lose. And so sometimes you're going to be like, this is the perfect clue, and then you give it, and then the assassin happens to also work well for that. So it's just it's getting into the head of your teammate, uh, how they think, what they would possibly, and maybe inside jokes, inside information that works well. There's a lot of ways that goes into this, which is why it's as successful as I think it was the number 1 party game for a long time. I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah, this
At
one's
least,
one that I own it still, just the space version, and I like it. I just never get it played because I don't ever have the people to play it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is now at number 5 and on the party game, right? Blood on the Clock Tower is number 1, which I've only heard good things.
mhm.
But yeah, so that is my number 37, Codenames.
All right. Well, my number 37 is another new one to this list. And it was a game that came out this last year also. So it's new also, and it jumped clear up here. It was one that I'd heard a lot of people talking, saying really good things about. It's a smaller game. I picked it up, and it did not disappoint. And that is the Vale of
Nice.
Eternity.
Yep.
This one, man, it's definitely even as much praise as I was hearing it get, it's still even bypassed. It went past my expectations. Because it's you're going to depend on player count. You're going to lay out a certain number of cards, and then you're going to be drafting those cards or placing the tokens out. You go in player order and place the tokens out on the cards, and then you have the decision to make when it's your turn to take those cards. You can either sell it, tame it, or summon, and stuff like that. So, and then you're building a tableau of cards out in front of you, and you can only have the same number or less cards depending on what round it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's round 4, you can only have 4 cards or less in your tableau and stuff. And there's some really powerful cards. There's some nice chaining you can do with different things. Also, the creative thing I always thought was the money, because it doesn't. There's a limitation on your money, and it's not the amount you can have; it's the number of gems you can have. So you could have you could have your max count of gems and have them all at level or all at 6 cost to max it out. But so you have to kind of, and you can't make change when you pay for cards to summon them out and stuff. So there's a little puzzle with that as well. And pretty much you just keep rolling until there's a certain number of rounds that you play. There's 10 rounds, or if you I think it's 10 rounds, or if somebody gets to 60, I think. But there's all kinds of creative deals, just like that time when I was showing you this game, and you had that one Goblin Scout or whatever, that if you were behind, you got 2 points.
Yep.
And I forgot you had that card, so at the very end, I did an ability that jumped you by like a couple
I think
of
you
points.
jumped me by 1.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, thank you, and then you ended up winning because of that stupid guy.
Yay! I was
So,
like, and I kept my mouth shut. I'm like,
oh yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything because clearly this is gonna work out in my favor.
Well, and
Yeah,
like
this
that card that you just had right there, though, it doesn't seem that powerful early. Like it's just
right.
a point here, a point there, but then you forget about it at the end of the game, and it's like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, this game does a lot. I mean, it doesn't do anything that's like amazing. At least in terms of its overall design. Like its design is very simple, but it's very I don't know, ingenious. Like with its, I mean, the amount of cards you can have is equal to the number of rounds. The limit on the money, the you know you know I guess calling dibs on cards. There's so
right.
many like small decisions that you make that have a lot of like impact. And for a game that's pretty much a deck of cards, there's a lot of depth to this, surprisingly.
Yes.
So yeah, this was one of the few ones that I went out and bought immediately whenever we were playing it, because I'm like, I just have to. That game was so good that I want to dive more into it. And I know a lot of people were kind of complaining that it's like, oh, with more players, you see every card. And it's like, well, it's not necessarily about not seeing cards. It's about the combination of cards that come out and how
Right.
those interact with everything else so it's like, yeah, you're gonna probably see the whole deck, but obviously in a completely different order that you're gonna see combos that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah, and there's the Artifacts expansion that's out, but I haven't picked it up yet. It's out of stock in a lot of places, so I'll get that eventually. It adds another board or something, but I'm not sure if it adds more cards or
I
not to
think
that
it
deck.
does. I thought it did
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm not real sure, but
Vale of Eternity. I mean, I'm
but
sure it adds artifacts.
right, right. But as far as like more cards just to the main deck,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure on that.
At least in the picture in images, it shows new creatures.
Okay.
It's funny. The Dice Tower when they were talking about it, they were mentioning that this game should have been Pokemon, and I'm like, oh my God, it
I mean,
should have.
yeah, it could have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
except this company couldn't afford it. Like that'd be a fun fan made thing. You'd have to do it under the radar, otherwise Nintendo will execute your family.
yeah, because you're
So
taming and summoning and
yeah,
stuff. So yeah,
yeah, it's perfect. That's the problem. It's like there are no good Pokemon games, even though that theme is ripe for a ton of them.
right. Probably because the
No good
IP is
Pokemon,
expensive.
huh? Yeah,
The IP is
exactly.
probably yeah.
Oh yeah, no good Pokemon board games, I should say. All right, yeah, great pick. My number 36 rose. It was 39 last year, so it rose just a little bit, but I can almost guarantee that it will fall. Not because I dislike this game, but I have a love-hate relationship with this game. Whenever it's on, but there's a lot of stuff about it that isn't for me, I should say, which is weird for a game this high. But whenever I'm at my number 36 is
Yeah.
Isofarian Guard, which now everyone's like, oh, like everyone has an epiphany and they're like, I get it now. Because you would think, well, why is it so high if you have so many issues with it? And it's like, well, all the issues I have with it, I can ignore because it's a board game. I could just be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not grinding. I'm just going to go where I want to. Um, but because I did a whole video on the grind of this game, and it is the most baffling thing to me that would have ever been implemented. Um, because to me, the way it comes off is that whenever they play tested it, no one play tested it throughout an entire, chapter or campaign. Because there's no way in hell anyone blind play testing this would have been like, hell yeah, I love this. Um, but whenever you're playing the actual game, like with the characters and the combat and going through the story and doing the side quests and the caravan quests. Now with the new stuff, the puzzles, all that is fantastic. Like that shit is an 8, 9 out of 10. But it's all the other stuff that you have to do to get to that, to be able to get new gear, to the tediousness of being like, oh, I gotta go get wood and have to walk all the way across the map to get 4 wood to then walk all the way back and potentially have fight, drop off the wood. No way in hell is anyone fucking doing that. And most people who commented on that video were like, no, a lot of house rules. So I've implemented my own house rules. Um, but the writing, the voice acting, the foreteller app integration for this is top notch. Hell, I mean, whenever you're in the combat, whenever you're doing like boss fights or scripted story fights or scripted side quest fights, all that is awesome. The chip bag, the bag building element of this is fantastic. I'm in chapter two, not chapter two, campaign two right now. And between the 4 guards I've played, every single one of them plays different. Every single one of them has depth to them and how you want to build them. And hell, that's just from their skill tree. What like the ways you want to go about. Do you want to go speaking stone route, which is like magic? Do you want to go kind of more true to skill? Do you want to go more support? Do you want to go kind of more tanky? There's, I mean, yeah, each guard has kind of like their role to play, but there's a lot of avenues. It's almost like a Gloomhaven thing. Yes, I'm playing the tank brute, so I can't all of a sudden be a thief rogue, but you can do a lot of stuff within that class and within that build, especially with items you can get. Even though you can't hold a bunch, you can. It's not that kind of game, which is perfectly fine. You're still able to have more than just 3 potions and 1 item. Um, you can have some type of item, and there's a lot of stuff that helps with that. Uh, and then on top of that, you can do unique stuff back at like the base, the hub area, where you can even get more unique skills or more badass weapons if you're willing to put in the time, or you just fucking cheat to make the game fun. Because I promise you, it is, if you're not doing any of that and you're trying to play it the way they want you to, it's one of the worst games. That's how polarizing this game is. It's like, man, everything I'm talking about, that's 9 out of 10 if you're skipping around. If you're because the way I've done it is whenever you travel, you go from node to node to node, unless you are going by boat, which makes things a lot faster. Um, you draw from a bag that has a 1, 2, 3 skull chip and 2 compasses. And the compasses are no fight, and then you eventually can lead up to an event. And the events are awesome. But you could technically have like 6 nodes before you get to your area. Draw a 3 skull chip. That's a fight. That's a higher tier fight. You put that chip back in the bag. Oh, it's a 2 skull. All right, you move 1 space. Oh, and then you just do that. I went before I got the new stuff for this game. Um, Keith and I, who I'm doing this series with, we moved 1 space and had a 2-hour fight. And I was like, I am done until this new shit comes out because the new stuff kind of streamlined it, made it a little bit easier to get resources. And even then, it doesn't help it all that much. So we house ruled it to where if it's a 1 skull, you just get the resources because you're gonna win. Like you might take a damage, but you're gonna win. 2 skulls, you can choose. If you want to, 3 skull, you have to do it, or you can do their rule and spend an AP action point to skip it. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of finagling, a lot of like whatever. We're not doing this to be able to get to the good parts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because I'm doing it as a series on the channel, it's fucking taxing, man. Like I don't know. I don't know if I ever completed all 5 campaigns, which I want to play every single guard. I don't see a world where I ever play it again, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know where this is gonna fall, next year. if I just think of the good stuff, all the actual content and not the grind, it'd still be on the list. But I don't know. I don't know. How do you rank or put games in your top 100 when it's as polarizing as this one is for me?
Yeah, we'll see.
So
Because I have the same kind of issues. But yeah.
yeah, so I we shall see. I mean, it is up here because I do when I'm playing the game, it's so good. It is really, really good. This is a game that almost feels like, it needs a Kinfire Delve. Now that I can make that reference, it needs like another edition, which it came out with a second edition or a second printing, it to where it just completely removes all that grind, all that. I don't know how they do it though, but well, I don't know. I don't know. It's here. It's at 36. Isofarian Guard.
All right. Well, my number 36 was 29 last year and was 23 the year before that. So it's been kind of sliding a little bit. And I think it's just because you talked about this a couple of segments ago. The game itself is still awesome, but when you get this specific version of this game, it's just hard to get to the table because it's
Ah,
so damn big and there's so much with it. But if you can, you know, get yourself to get it out to the table, it's the same great game, same fun aspect, and that's Everdell, the complete collection.
yeah.
So I haven't played this a whole lot the last couple of years. That's why I think
Yeah,
it
dude,
keeps
this was
slipping.
this was in the 70s for me. It
Really,
was Yeah, it was 25. It was even higher than you have it right now,
yeah,
for me. And it tanked because I haven't touched it.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. I need to because like if it hits the table, it's going to move the opposite direction. It's just
Yeah.
right now, we all wanted that storage, all in one storage, but then when you get that, it kind of makes it hard sometimes to get it all out, especially when it's you have the collector's version of every single expansion and everything that's come out for it, and the wooden tree and all that, the resources and resource
Hmm.
holders and all that crap. But it's still at the bones of it though. It's still a great tableau building game. We talked about when you talked about, it's like you you have the deal where it's worker placement, but you don't have like a lot of workers, so you are trying to be the most efficient with your workers. Um, there's that one part that I like where you can actually jump ahead in the next season
Hmm.
if you're ready. But that means if you're rushing through it, that means the people that are back behind are being a little bit more efficient because they're getting more done on their turns.
Yeah.
So you want to really think about what you're doing. Um, and then all those expansions, I haven't even played all the expansions yet. I've played Pearlbrook, Spirecrest, and Belfair. I have not played New Leaf or Mistwood yet.
Okay.
Um,
Mistwood, I want to say that's the solo,
oh,
the
okay.
the big solo one. New Leaf is really good.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's so funny because we both said the same thing, and pretty much everyone is saying the same thing about this. And the last time I played this, was actually when I played Far Shore. And I kind of dogged on Far Shore because it's like, well, this feels like this would have just been an expansion, but you like, what is it? Put the cap on Everdell, and
Right.
you're like, oh wait, we still want to make money, so here's Far Shore, and now here's this new one, and here's Everdell Duel. Um, but it's funny because I don't play this, but I got the same feeling I got with Far Shore. So now if someone was to be like, "Oh, which should I get?" I'd probably say Far Shore.
Just for ease of everything.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
it's the exact same game with a little bit of quality of life stuff. Again, Far Shore has this thing where you have the exact same 8 cards in that market, except you don't have duplicates. If you draw a duplicate, it gets stacked. Which you could easily just do in Everdell, and I will if I
Yeah.
ever play
I
this
will
again.
too. Yeah.
But that's a nice quality of life. And the solo variant in the box, anyway. I know the solo variant has been improved in the complete collection, but the crab guy
Yeah.
is. And also I think they have like anchors. Yeah, they have a system where it's like anchors that you could spend their limited resource, but you could spend to freely play a card. That's a nice quality of life thing. You don't have to spend resources, and that gets your kind of tableau and your engine going a lot more versus the swinginess of this game. But yeah, if you ever just finally you muster up the, well, I mean, you have to go to the gym a little bit so you can lift the damn box.
Yeah.
If you can set it up, it is a gorgeous, fantastic worker placement game. So I see why it's this high for
Oh
you.
yeah. Yeah, it's just the not getting play. I mean, like
I know.
it'll stay here if I play it. Like I don't think see
Yeah.
it getting higher. Like, but it's gonna
Yeah.
keep dropping if I don't.
I haven't shown Ariana this, and this might be the chance for me to be like, hey, here's a fantastic, because I know she'd like it.
Oh yeah.
So that I might be able to actually get it played. But
Yep.
yeah, great pick.
All right.
All right. My number 35 is new to the list, and this was actually one that was surprisingly not as high for you. It was in your top 100. But about like I think it was maybe in the very first one. It might have been in your 90s, maybe 80s. And this is a campaign game that you and I are doing together after hours, and that is
Uh,
Agamonia.
this was my number 100.
Oh wow, okay. Barely made your list.
Well, it's
Well, we
because
can
I hadn't
quit,
played
man,
it
if
in
you
a
don't
while.
like it that much.
Well, I think I'd made my list like after we played like once.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's like I didn't want it to jump so high yet, like
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
that's fair. Well, I did because I really, really like this game. Um, and that's usually how I am before, like, I know we've done our discussion. It's not on the channel yet, so, but you can clearly see when the discussion does go up that I think very
Oh yeah,
favorably of
I
it.
really like it too.
Um, this has a lot of really interesting systems in it. I think by the time we do the discussion, that was, I think, right whenever we were done with the overall tutorial. So my series always have kind of like a first impressions, really. But I love that stamina system, that chip
Hmm.
system. That's a really cool element. The free flowing nature of your actual actions. Not 100% sold on the initiative. Um,
Yeah,
but they kind of give it that oh shit moment where you can not do an action and kind of flip your token to do something else. Um, the freedom of items that you can get is because you're not really limited to a whole lot. You can just have stuff on you. But what really sets this game so high for me is the voice acting or the narrate. At least they have it. What Fate
right.
Forge doesn't fucking have, this game does. Now it's not foreteller quality. It feels like Max's son reading the script on his phone in the bathroom. But it's still there, and that's better than me doing it. But the really cool creative ways that they are utilizing that map book is awesome. Utilizing, utility equipment where it's like this is a great example. This is one of the tutorials where you have a fallen tree and there's like three different elements that you need to do to solve it. You can either climb around, but unfortunately you have a wagon that you have to escort, so you can't just abandon it. I mean, I guess technically you can. You're just gonna have to deal with the consequences later. And I love the fail forward system as well. Every campaign needs fail forward. You make me do a scenario again, I am not doing it again. Like, fuck you. But you can, like, you either have to go and pass, like, there was a time where you climbed up, or I climbed up, and then I was like, oh, you have the axe. Like, I need to cut the roots. Because what they do that's really neat is throughout every single map, there are these letters that have a range on them of stuff that you can see and interact with. And it's like, okay, well, I'll go over there and interact with it. So the scenario feels fleshed out. Every scenario has different rules and a different puzzle and a different take on it, depending on which characters you have. It's this one I have extremely high hopes for as we continue. Like, kind of, I just had Isofarian Guard where I'm like, the gameplay is what is keeping this game up, and the story. And so the story is really good, but there's a lot of shit that I really don't like. This game My only kind of gripe is the initiative, and it's not even really that big of a deal. It's just like, I'd rather kind of have a little bit more agency. Maybe we see it first, and then we can, they're going to go first. How are we going to
Right.
handle that? Because my the reason why I don't really care for it is because we set what we're doing on our turn first before we see how everyone's reacting.
Right.
Um, but again, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Uh,
I also like, because when we played it that first day and we were looking on the app, like there's a flippin' 40-minute backstory. Like I listened to my backstory for my character in our recordings,
yeah,
and it's like 40-minute backstory of my character and
I thought
everything. And I'm
the
like,
app bugged out. Like I
yeah.
was like, there's no way. There's no way this is 40 minutes. This has to be the whole story.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because after watching that, we've had other play days of this, and it's like it makes me get into my character a lot more because it's very
Mhm.
detailed in the story. Like once you listen to yours for your person,
Yeah,
it's going to change how you see them when you play. It's like it makes
right.
more sense and stuff. It's the amount of effort put into this game was awesome. My copy is should be here probably in the next month or two, I think,
I
finally, because I
think.
did the
Yeah.
reprint and stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing to really complain about with this at all.
Yeah, I mean, because every character, and I think more games need to do this too, but every character has their own individual storybook that at certain chapters or events that you do in the city phase, is only available to you. And like you were saying, that throws in more depth to your character of why things are happening, why you're doing what you're doing, which is awesome. The city phase, again, I think the tutorial isn't amazing. It's funny you mentioned that the Dized app has like
Yes.
I'm like I low key want to restart because like it felt the tutorial for this felt like the the Elder Scrolls one, where I just felt there was a small piece of me that was like, I feel like we're still doing something wrong. The city phase just felt very clunky,
Which
even
I
though it
think
doesn't.
you can go in and watch. Like if you go into that app, I think you can.
Yeah,
There's a table of contents. I think you can like click on town stuff, and it'll bring you right to that deal and kind
nice,
of talk it out. I believe that's what the Elder Scrolls one was like anyway.
gotcha.
So yeah, we can look into
Yes,
see.
so I might just do that because it it just feels a little. It felt a little off, like things like the turn sequence just wasn't really lining up. I mean, hell, that great example was like we didn't have the access to our next quest, even though there were places we could go that we could pick up quests, but it didn't really tell us how we went about doing that. So just weird things that felt omitted. Um, but other than that, yeah, the gameplay is super solid. I can see this as we continue moving forward. I can see this honestly going up. I'd be surprised if it tanked, you
Oh
know?
yeah, mine will definitely be higher since we played it more. It's just with
Right.
the list. We make these lists so far ahead that
That's true.
you know.
So yeah, expect to see Agamonia probably higher next year as we continue this series. But right now, I mean, it's at a high 35.
All right, good choice. My number 35 is also new to the list, but it's not a new game. This one came out in 2020. And ironically, we were just talking about this game last night. And this one's one I never thought I would like by hearing the generic description of this game, but it turns out to be a really, really fun one. And it has a nickname as Tech Tree, the board game,
Oh,
and that is Beyond the Sun.
nice.
This one, like I said, yeah, people were loving on this when it came out, and but then you look at what the game looks like, which I'll flip the picture here in a second, but and it looks very minimalist and very dull, kind of. Um, but yeah, I mean, this one, there's a new one that just came out this week for retail called Beyond the Horizon, and it's by the same designer, everything, but it's a civ building game, and it takes place on like Earth or some planet anyway, or whatever. That adds makes it a little bit. It's more colorful, and it's the same bones of this game. So
Oh, okay.
I just purchased six. I want to see what it's like since I like this one so well. So anyway,
Nice.
this one,
I don't know what you're
is
talking about, man. That game looks amazing.
well, right. That's what I'm saying because you owned this at one point but never played it, right?
Yeah, it was just one that was on the shelf.
Yeah. So this one you're going to take a corporation because there's the different corporations that are trying to excel in outer space stuff, and they have different abilities if you play because there's some that are static. Like if you're playing for a first timer, the corporations are static, and there's some that have special abilities. I think if you flip them over, but what you're doing is you have these your color of dice and tokens and all that stuff, and everything starts like these are worker placement spots over here. Um, and so you'll place it down, you'll do different stuff, but then as you research new things, these cards, there's replayability because these are cards out here that get placed. There's different levels. So one game is going to be totally different than the other, depending on what cards pop out there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put these cards out, and then once you go there and like research it or whatever, then you place a die there showing that you have researched it. So then that opens up where you can go straight over here or come down here or go up there to research. So, and these worker placement spots will eventually reopen or open, but only for the people whose dice is there. So, like orange has opened up all this stuff down to here, but these level 4 or level 3s are really powerful.
Yeah,
But he's the only one that can use this one because he's researched everything in front of it. Same as, I mean, it's general tech tree crap. I mean,
yeah.
and then these are like your super power level 4s or like your big ones. But you are doing all these different things. There's a planet board over here because your dice also have little spaceships on them. So then there's an area majority kind of thing. So you're moving your ships around to other planets and trying to colonize them and do different stuff. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on with this game that I never really had thought. Like the mechanics of this game totally outweigh what it looks like per se. That's why I'm excited for Horizons because it actually has a really cool look to it too.
Cool.
So, and then when you get the there's the the Leaders of the New Dawn expansion that I picked up, and it actually gives you a solo mode to it as well, and it adds a little bit more more card type stuff. I think it adds I think another corporation or two, maybe. I'm not 100% certain, but anyway, so like the only reason I got this stuff because I got this game and the expansion secondhand online. A guy was selling them for $25 plus shipping for both of them combined. And I'm just like,
Damn.
hell yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, right. Like, thanks for the free game.
Right. So, but no, I mean this was one that if you haven't played this, I think you need to give it a shot. Because it's just like I said, it's minimalist, but it's very cool when you're playing it, and it makes sense as you go. And yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. I don't know what'll happen next year with it because I know a lot of it will depend on how much I like the Horizon one because whether I like it better than this and this falls off or that one comes up or whatever. But this one was a definite big surprise for me and definitely a must try.
Yeah, just added it to the games to play list.
Okay.
All right. Well, my number 34, I would also say definitely play if you get the chance, but it's certainly not an easy one to wrap your head around. It fell from last year. It was number 14, and it was new last year. So it fell, 20 spots, but still really high up because this is a special game. It fell because it's difficult to get to the table because I refuse to play with anything less than 4 players, and that is Hegemony. Lead your class to victory. What an appropriate game to play nowadays. The only other one that would be more perfect is Shasen. But this game is kind of like a political economic game that, I mean, overall theme wouldn't interest a lot of people, but the amount of work and research that went into this is just completely brilliant. It is an asymmetric game where you are playing either the working class, middle class, capitalists, or the state. all with your own goals and interests and objectives in mind. As per usual, if you're playing the capitalist, you want to keep worker pay low, but you also, yeah, you want to keep wages low, but you want to keep them just around enough to keep them around so you get resources so you can actually sell them off to other countries so you can make money. That's your overall goal. Working class wants to get paid more and they want to be able to work. Middle class kind of wants to keep the balance of both, and the state wants to keep everyone happy. Um, the genius of this game is that it doesn't feel um like nationalistic. Like you're not playing it. It's not like, hey, this is America. This is the American economy. I imagine that whenever you're playing it, the way where whatever country you're playing it will make sense to that country. Obviously, from America, boo, boo this fucking country. It sucks. Um, it represents everything that's happening makes sense. It makes like logical sense as you're doing certain actions. But what's also amazing is even though it's asymmetric, the fact that they printed off player aids that are it's the rules. It's the rules for your class. And whenever anyone's like, "Oh, how do I do something?" It's like, "Oh, it's right there. It's right on your player aid because whatever I'm gonna look up is gonna be what you're about to read." So that's amazing. And what's also great is every faction or every faction has their own deck of cards, and that's going to be kind of your what dictates a lot of your actions. There are laws that you vote on, that the more voting of your own cubes represents how influential you are in the next upcoming election, and there's action cards that aid you even more in that. So everyone's deck is unique, which is really, really cool. The state has like, public education and public health care and, public network broadcasting that can again help with voting. But you can kind of close those down if you're trying to, it's like, hey, come to my private hospital, which is, somewhere you can also work at, but it might give you health care. It's it's just amazing. This game is absolutely special. And even though it is a complex game, every time I have played this, because you play 5 rounds, about one full round in, it's everyone is like, "Oh, I get it." And for a game that's like this, for that to be the case is, I mean, again, shows how genius this game is. It fell just because I refuse to play with less. I believe this is one game you need max players. Um, they have a mini expansion that throws in like historical events that, throw a wrench into things and how you're going to interact with the various economic state, which is really, really cool. And even another mini expansion that kind of even further throws even further variety into the unique decks. So this is a really good one. If you like this kind of theme, then and you have a group to play it with, I highly, highly recommend checking it out. I'm very interested in World Order, but also a little hesitant more on that one because it is about the four fucking world powers. So that might be a little bit more. I don't know. I like this one because it isn't specific, but World Order is like, oh nope, you're Russia, America, China, and the EU. And there's I don't know. It's a little too there's enough shit every single day now that it's like I don't know if I'd
So
actually want
it's a one versus many then, right?
to let's yes, it might be. Jeez. Yeah, so it's I don't know. I don't know. That game, I know it with this war of mine, I was like, this is a little bit I can disassociate, maybe not with World
Yeah.
Order. But
Yep.
Hegemony, still a fantastic game.
All right. Well, my number 34 was 28 last year. It slipped just a little bit, and it's not because I haven't. I mean, it just other stuff moved up. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
going to be right in that zone. I think it was 30 the year before, so I mean, it's just kind of
Okay.
hanging right in this area. Um, this is actually one that is a remaster version of a game that I enjoyed a lot back in the day. But then this version came out and it took all the old stuff and all the expansions, put it together, streamlined it, did better art, better rules, all that stuff, and that is Hoplomachus Remastered. Because I had all the old original stuff, the Lost Cities, the Rise of Rome, all that stuff, but it was like there's so much. Like when they did this remastered version, they got rid of a ton of chips because there was a bunch of double, like not extra chips in those boxes they didn't need. So now there's all this stuff in this remastered. The rules are a lot more better. The keywords are more smooth.
They learned.
Right. And well, and the art from the original version is just like clip art stuff for their deals. Because this was their first this was their very first Kickstarter, was Hoplo Rise of Rome.
It wasn't that lock game, Trip Lock or whatever.
I think this was before that even. If you look at if you look at the Kickstarter page for Rise of Rome, it's like old school, like it was like early Kickstarter look.
Oh, I gotta look it up.
To it. But anyway, so when they did this remastered, they put all this really nice, their typical chip theory art on the chips. You know, the graphic design is better. The thing with this version is you can do it solo or 2-player co-op. You can do 2 to 4 player skirmish battles. You just choose a civilization or a tribe or whatever, and then you have their chips. You go in at it and battle. I mean, it's this one's pretty straightforward. This one came out around the same time as another game I will talk about down the road, with Victorum, which is their solo only deal. And I told you, man, it's like old school. That was their very first one. It's rough.
It's almost like the chip design that they have on this Kickstarter is like a concept. And it's like, well, surely this isn't what it's gonna really look like.
It did.
This looks like it was made in paint.
Yeah. Oh, no. How much did they make on that? Because it wasn't
that's
that
a good
much.
question. They made $28,000.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, so that happened, but then like they just kind of took, I think, Too Many Bones is what kind of really pushed them.
Yep.
And stuff.
Then Hoplomachus Remastered wasn't on Kickstarter? Or did that come with Victorum?
I think it was Game Found. Victorum was the project that Remastered was with. I can't remember if it was Game Found.
Okay, well, Victorum made $944,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't really scale for inflation on that one.
Yeah. So anyway, this one is, really nice. It uses a lot of the stuff. If you like chip theory stuff, there's a lot of the similar battling stuff as like the Too Many Bones, and now with Elder Scrolls and stuff, like the keywords, you battle stuff, you lose chips. I mean, it's the same kind of deal. This one,
because this has like the different modes, right? It has like the Last Man Standing and the King of the Hill and all that. Yeah,
it did, and that's one reason why it's a little lower than most of the other chip theory games, is because like if I'm diving into this universe, as much as I like this game, if I'm going to play this solo, I'm going to play Victorum.
Right.
But I have it here because it does get played 2-player every now and again. I've never tried the 4-player competitive. I don't know what that would even look like, but
I can't remember, because were there scenarios for this, or was it just because I know in Victorum the different maps have different rules, like, oh, you're chained together with someone. Do they have that in this
one? This one, it depends on what mode, because like you can, when you play cooperative, you can kind of choose different types of games. It's not like that kind of stuff necessarily. Like Victorium got a little more thematic into it.
I see.
But the one thing I did like with this remaster also is the dice. The dice back in the day were just weird dice. This one has the
and there were triangles. It was odd. I don't know what.
Well, it was like X's and it was ones and zeros or X. I can't remember what the original one had, but this one has like, it's interesting because you really can't tell necessarily, but like there's on that circle, there's a circle around the sword and it has certain like little notches, and then that's how many hits there are on that die. So it kind of gives you an idea.
It's what they have in 20 Strong now.
Right. So
and this has an expansion coming, right?
This one.
Didn't this get an expansion?
Yeah, I got it. It's the Pandora's Box. It's
that's it.
It has another playmat and another more stuff to it. They've combined, like Victorum and this are kind of joined at the hip, because you can take stuff from this game and put it in Victorum. You can take stuff from Victorum and put it in this.
Okay.
So they're kind of, when they did the expansion, it was expansions, but it was expansions for both of them in the same project.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I mean, this one will probably hang around this area. I know we're going to be reviewing these sometime in the future. So
Yeah, so so I'll be redoing my content for Hoplomachus Remastered as well as Hoplomachus Victorum because your boy got a sponsorship. No.
yeah,
But yeah, so look forward to these videos again as well as the expansions. So, which is
yep.
fucking dope. All right. My number 33. I don't believe you've talked about yet, even though you haven't even played any of their stuff. I think you've maybe played the core box of it. And the other stuff I think is still in shrink near like your sump pump or something. My number 33 is
Oh
Final
boy,
Girl.
I've played a lot of this.
They keep like looked at the core box a few times and that's it. This fell, which is actually it makes actually this one makes sense, even though I'm currently playing Series 3 right now. Um, it was 18 last year and 92 the year before, so it was like it really skyrocketed because I have all three series. I did end up buying that orange thing that I missed out on off of
Okay,
eBay. It was a little bit more expensive, but no one was really price gouging it.
yeah,
Um, you want like your schlocky slasher horror game, even though it's not even really slasher anymore. They've gone so creative with a lot of them, but typically they still adhere to the final girl shtick. This is really the game for you. It is, unless you completely hate randomness, then this is not the game for you at all. Um, the reason why it fell is not anything to do with the game. I love this game, but I only play it at certain times of the year. There's
yeah.
two times when I play it. When I get my new stuff and I try out all the boxes so I can, put videos out and my rankings, and October.
Yeah.
Because this game is the best game for Halloween. Uh, but what's also kind of interesting is I've played this cooperatively, where like the other day I had it where Ariana was playing and I was kind of DMing a little bit, like, hey, well, you can do this, but then like whenever she goes and does an action or something, I'll like theme it up a little bit to kind of get a little bit even more into this. But this game is dripping with theme. Every single location has different rules to it. Every single killer has different rules. Every single final girl has different rules. Well, not really rules, has a different ability. Uh, and even though they've kept the exact same style of cards, which originally I thought was going to be a problem, now I love that they didn't add more cards, like more action cards, because what they
Right.
do is every now and then some locations will have unique action cards that you can get, but locations have different items, different setup cards, different events. Both of them come with different terror cards that you shuffle together, and then you have a different set of 10 for the terror deck. The amount of variety that is in this game is insane. And that would be enough if the boxes were what they were. But the fact that you can take a killer and a location from any of the sets and mix and match it's genius.
Yeah.
Like the magnetic boxes is also really, really cool. Like I know Hans goes with Camp Happy Trails, but there is nothing stopping you from taking a killer, taking there's a killer in Series 3 that is representative of Jigsaw. There is nothing stopping you from taking that killer and putting them in Camp Happy Trails.
Mhm.
And that might make some wacky combos. It might make it even more unbalanced. It might make it more balanced. You don't know. But if you go in this with the mindset of theme over mechanisms, you're going to have a fantastic time. I've actually been doing the Series 3 stuff using the gruesome deaths,
Mhm.
which I always thought was like theme for how you kill the killer. or how the killer kills you. It is not that. It's for the victims. So when
Right.
the yellow meeples die, you like look and you're like, okay, this is who the killer is. This is oh, this is the tarot card that killed them, and it's like a blurb on that, on how that person died. Now, those gruesome deaths are only tied to that series. Like, it's not like this massive book of, oh, hey, you were playing the alien, uh, at at the Stranger Things inn. It's just, well, actually, no, that's from the same series, so that would be there, but you couldn't take Hans. Like, Hans is not going to be at like the series 3 location. It's not that expansive, but
Right.
it's still a nice little even more theme. So we know Series 4 is coming, although albeit they're doing a little bit weird this time around.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're actually releasing the boxes one every few months
Yeah.
in retail first, and then the early next year they're gonna do the ultimate Kickstarter. But you can go ahead and buy these if you want when they hit retail, and they're
Hmm.
just going to do a pledge for the ultimate box and the miniatures and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
I don't know why the change was. I watched the live stream and I never really
I wonder if
heard
it was a
why they were doing
production
it.
issue. They maybe they got hung up or had
Maybe.
issues with Series 3 that became less of a headache.
All I know
Or
is the new ones they announced for the season 4 are gonna be fucking awesome.
oh, I have no idea what they are.
There's a Five Nights at Freddy's ones, which I don't care about
Okay.
that necessarily because I don't. But then there's one that is it's going to be released at I want to say Gen Con is when they're releasing this one,
That
but
means I'll get it for free because
I can't
AJ's my boy.
I
No,
can't
I
remember
don't know
what
if I
it's
will.
called, but it's at a game convention. It's the place is a game convention, and there's this killer, and what happens is a bunch of the killers from the other sets
Hmm.
are being cosplayed, and the killer is
Oh,
cosplaying as one of them, and you have to deduce which one it is as you
that's
go
cool.
through. And then I
That's cool.
think there is the aliens one, not aliens.
I'm like, what? They've
No,
already
no, no,
done that?
no. Shit, there was the other one.
Predator?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah, maybe it's Predator.
Okay.
Yeah, that might have been it. But so speaking of
Because
which, I have played one from Series 3 so far because I wanted to play it because I like it. Have you played the Terminator one?
no, that's
That was
no.
fucking cool.
I've been going backwards. So I've done so far because I've been recording them. They'll be up after this video. So as of right now, I've done the Tremors one or the
Mhm.
Quiet Place. It's like Quiet Place Tremors. I've done the Stranger Things one.
Right.
The Falconwood Files is Stranger Things, 1,000,000%, and then the Merrick Murders, which is the Saw. So
Yeah.
I still have the Terminator one and the Hellraiser one.
Yes. Razor,
Still have those
Razor
two to do.
basement. Yeah, the Terminator one's really cool because it's in a mall, and it's like
Yes,
it's
yeah.
it's it's really neat.
Um,
Um, but yeah, this one we'll talk about this later.
yeah, it is really good. I think there's just, I mean, I have quite a few new ones up and more that rose. So, I mean, it's still super high up, especially considering I am not a solo gamer. I have a few solo games, and this is, as far as I remember, the only one that made my list. And I mean, Van Ryder is also a great company, so I don't know. Like, I guess if you can just get them retail and then the ultimate box comes out later, then that's the smart move I would actually say from a business perspective is the route to go. Especially if they're going to do like shadow drops of like unique ones like the Krampus, Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, and Krampus. Uh, I think that could be cool.
Yeah, I
So,
think I'm just gonna end up waiting. I have so much of it right now. I'll just do the project when it comes out at the end. I think
I would imagine there's an all-in for for it whenever they do go on
there will be.
GameFound.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I
Yep.
wonder what they're gonna do for the big surprise. Like this last one came with a really nice extra playmat to store even more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although I wish at this point there was just one big playmat. The
Instead of having, yeah,
the three pieces is kind of like I kind of wish it was just one now. But anyway, yeah, that's my number 34, 33
yes,
Final
good
Girl.
choice. All right, my number 33 is an older. Oh, I say older game. It seems like it's been out. There's some games that we feel or we're like shocked that it's been out that long.
Hmm.
This one feels like it's been out longer than it has been,
Oh,
but
okay.
because it came out in 2018, and I would have guessed it would have been earlier than that. But I actually learned this game from an old shoddy video of your channel from back in the day. And I'm sure it's not on your channel anymore,
Did it
but
work?
well, it was just weird. It was just weirdly filmed.
No.
It was weirdly filmed because of the way you had it, but I mean, that was your early days. But that is Dark Souls, the card game.
Oh, nice.
This one
Oh, you watched my did I have a how to play for this or
you had
which
like a playthrough. Yeah.
wow. Oh, playthrough. Okay, yeah. I have since redone that.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, it was so I don't know. I've never played the Dark Souls video games, never played the board game. I saw this and I saw people saying it was a good co-op slash solo, like
Mhm.
um, deck building or deck evolving kind of game. Um, so even not knowing really much about the theme of it, I dove into this and was pleasantly surprised. I like the what's really cool is for some reason there's just that graphic design on the cards, like where everything is just, I mean, Dark Souls, so everything's just like black except for the item, and it's
Yeah, it's the way the inventory looks in the
yeah,
video game.
okay. Um, but you're working your way through doing different stuff, you're upgrading cards, getting items, blah blah blah. There, when you battle, there's a little bit of strategy on those boards of moving around and doing different
Hmm.
stuff. The trick with this, the puzzle of this though, is that your deck is also your health as you're going through. So you're going through spot to spot, and then when you need to rest, you rest at a fire or whatever, at a bonfire or whatever.
Yep.
And then you recuperate that stuff and all that. So it's just like you're kind of pushing your way through, almost like a roguelike thing,
Yep.
like you're going as far as you can, and then resting in the fire, doing all your stuff. Um, this guy looks like he just has every card out possible.
That's true. Yeah, I think he does.
but but yeah, the only bad thing about this game, because I mean you can still find this, it was reasonably expensive for just a smaller box of cards. It was like $45 to get
Yeah.
those
And
boxes don't hold the
oh God,
cards.
it's awful. The
So I created
expansions
my
are
own.
impossible to find now.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. I have it all, but
I do too.
but so I've created my own little storage solution for them just because the storage is shit. But
3D printer.
well, I just still don't even know if that would make it with that because there's so many cards and stuff.
Maybe a lit with lid lift.
Yeah, maybe I'll look into it, but because right now I have one of those, those white like card storage boxes that have two rows in
Oh,
them. I
yeah.
have that, and then I like cut the cover off of one of the deals that says Dark Soul, and I have it taped to the top of that box.
I
It's
gotcha.
kind of shoddy, but it does the job.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So not knowing any of the theme and all that stuff, and then playing this, it's a strategic game. There's a lot of thinking with it. There's a puzzle with it. The enemies are. I mean, it's not an easy game at all. Uh,
No, it's actually more difficult solo because when the enemies attack, like in a cooperative game, they target certain sections and then it's like, oh, okay, if you're not in that section, then it moves, it kind of moves around until it tries to hit you. But you share the damage or you share the attacks versus it being you, where it's like you're almost always getting hit. Um, but yeah, the different characters all have like kind of like unique weapons that only they can use, or you can try and gear towards using certain weapons that come in your deck. This is significantly better than that shitty ass board game they made.
so it's the Kenfire Delve situation again, huh?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe people should quit making campaign board games and start just doing simple card games.
So yeah, that's my 33 Dark Souls, the card game.
Nice. All right, my number 32 is new to the list. Surprisingly, being this high. But the more I kept thinking and the more I kept playing it, the more I was enamored by how different this game is. And it's a game you and I actually played. I don't think it would make your top 100, especially not this high. But that is
Oh yeah.
Peacemakers,
If I
Horrors
if
of
I
War.
own this game and got it played more, I could see it being up there. I mean,
Yeah,
because I really like to play. I've only played it that one time, so
right. Yeah, I've played it since we played it. I played it more after that, and it's just so intriguing. Now, I never played the original, I think Dawn of the Peacemakers is what it was called. I didn't play that. This, I think, is the remake of it.
yes.
But the fact that in this game you are actually the mediators between war. So you pick a scenario and there are these factions. So in this case, it's like the macaws and the honey badgers, and they have their own units, and they have kind of these two decks that are going to kind of be their action for the turn, and you play in between all that. You're not on one side. You're trying to get them to where their morale moves down into the green, and sometimes that's easier than others. So all of the factions that are at war have like a specific behavior on how they are gonna approach the war. But you're utilizing action cards to be able to sway them, to cause them to potentially miss an attack or potentially get in the way of being attacked. And you might actually try and get a unit to die so their morale goes down because they're going to be too powerful and they might kill the opposing army. So the intricacies of play between you and all the players, that the cards are, they're all universal. Every single player can use every card, but depending on who you're playing, certain cards are better for you to have. So you have to kind of position yourself to be able to trade. If Brad draws one, that'd be great for me. It's like, oh, that'd be perfect if we could use it right now. Oh, okay, well, let's see if we can get in together
Mhm.
so I can give it to you. Um, but you also have to be in the same spots as these factions. So you have to be able to move and be like, oh, now I'm going to poison their water so they get sick and they don't move. But it's figuring out how the factions work, when they're going to be doing stuff so you can be successful. And that alone is why it's so high, because I mean, you just never see that. Like
Right.
that's completely unique to this game. And the Horrors of War version adds a new deck, whereas units die, you get horror cards because your people are not accustomed to war. So you can get things like PTSD or shell shocked or, whatever the case might be, which adds in a wrinkle to your plans. And while there's only 6 scenarios, I mean, I've just shown the first one because it's not like, I'm glad what they didn't do is the first one is definitely the tutorial one,
Mhm.
but it's not like, oh, you have this simple tutorial one and then 5 scenarios, because every single scenario you can have different achievements, different rules to make it harder. So yeah, you could just play the base scenario once to kind of as a learning game. It's like, okay, now we're gonna add in this rule, which has like a star level for every single scenario.
Yeah.
So it's really unique. I of course, because I just want more to games that I barely ever get played. How many times have we talked about games fail because we haven't played them? But I would be very happy if they added more. And this company, Snowdale, has more factions. Their Dale of Merchants game has so many different factions that aren't in this game, so they could easily do expansions for this. So we'll see if they do. If not, it still has a lot of replayability to it. And if you don't like war games, I think this is one to actually check out because you're trying to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's my 32 Peacemakers.
All right. My number 32 is a game that came out 10 years ago.
Got some
Um,
old ones on this segment.
yeah, it was 55 last year. So it went up, and it was 72 the year before that. So it's
Wow.
actually been growing.
Been like, yeah,
This,
jumping by 20s each time.
yeah. And we'll see what it does this next time. There's
Could be in your
actually,
top 10 next time.
I'm
It'd
actually
be
going to be
number
I'm actually selling this game. right now because there's a 10th anniversary edition that's getting
Oh,
ready to hit Kickstarter, and that is Champions of Midgard.
nice.
The 10th anniversary edition is going to be all blinged out and all really nice and have
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
So I'm definitely will be picking it up. But for now, I have been playing this the last couple of years. There's like one of the guys here in town that I play with loves this game, so I get it played with him. So this is one that it, it wouldn't be on this list if if the expansions didn't come out, just because it would have gotten too samey. Like because when the Valhalla expansion came out specifically, that one fixed my main issue with this game. So in this game, it's a worker placement game. So you are a leader, and you are setting out your meeples, gathering resources, gaining warriors. You can gain dice. Your warriors are dice that will show up here. You're doing all these different things. You can kill trolls. You can do different things by going there. Ultimately, your big point stuff though is getting enough resources and stuff to be able to take a ship and sail across the sea to take on big monsters. The part with this base game that was rough was you'd spend all this time gaining these dice, and then you would battle something, and then you would just lose them. You'd lose them. So you'd go for one big Hail Mary swing. And then if you failed or just barely passed, you lose all those dice.
Yeah.
With the Valhalla
Kind of like the
expansion,
Tidal Blades thing,
yes, exactly. So then the Valhalla expansion came out, which added this Valhalla board, which is awesome because then every dice you lose that dies, you gain a chip, a token of that dice color, and then you can use that to purchase stuff out of the Valhalla deck. So it made it to where you may want some of your warriors to die, so you can get these cool Valhalla cards and whatever they give you or do.
Yeah, they come back and they're like, "We killed the Hydra." It's like, damn it!
Right,
You're supposed to die out there.
And then the other one was what was it called? It's the mountains or something, like Dark Mountains. The Dark Mountains just added another board that added another spot for like another type of a troll.
Yeah.
So another thing to go, and
Made it
it
easier
also
to get food.
Yeah, it added green dice, which you didn't have, that were like your hunter dice or archer dice. So then you can get more food that way. Yeah, and so having those expansions, Valhalla specifically, may turn this game into a badass game. And I still don't know 100% what I'm looking for. I mean, what's coming out with the 10th anniversary edition. I know in this one there was these tiles that had the ships that you would go, and now the 10th anniversary edition actually has big meeple ships that you get to put your dice on and stuff on that you take across.
I gotcha.
There's a lot of different things, and I have the huge playmat for this that has like all the expansion stuff integrated into the playmat. So I'm kind of hoping they do something similar with this 10th anniversary edition. I can't assume they wouldn't, but yeah, I mean, and then you win if you have the most victory points. I mean, it's something like that. But there's just a lot of neat stuff with this game. I've always been enamored with this game, and those expansions came out just about the right time. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what the new version brings out, but this is still a really good one.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take a look at the new version as well. All right, and finally, my number 31, the last one for this segment. Rose, it was 51 last year, and it will probably rise again because Brad so graciously made an insert for it, and I got to play, and I've played this recently, and that is Marvel Zombies. I'm so happy, like whenever, because like there are games that we talk about that I'm like, oh, this fell because I haven't played it. Oh, but I've recently played it, so it'd be higher. I'm glad that this rose, and I've also recently played it. Yeah, so as we've said in many videos before, like I mean I've played the original Zombicide, it's awful. And then I played Black Plague, which was better, but I was like it wasn't really for me. So I was pretty much just done with anything zombie side, especially with how many reskins that they have. And when they announced this, I was like, ugh, Marvel again. And zombie side, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But then we kept getting updates. I'm like, that's a lot of stuff. I would like all that stuff. So we forked over the money for it, and God, this game is so much fun. Like it
It's
kind of
fun.
has it it's like it has that Massive Darkness 2 feel where this is just pure fun in a box. It happens to be higher than Massive Darkness 2 because at the time I was making this, I actually played it. Um, but I don't know where I'd put both of them. They're both just a blast to play. Uh, so I don't know. I'm very curious how they land next year. But yeah, we picked the scenario and did the zombie version because with all the content you can do heroes or zombies. Hero play as heroes, kill zombie Marvel, kill Marvel zombies, or play as the zombies and kill the heroes. Uh, and we did Zombie Hulk, Zombie Venom, and Zombie Moon Knight which would
Interesting.
just be which would just be terrifying.
Yeah.
Like a zombie venom would be awful. But the fantastic thing is like you have the dynamic of the hunger with your character that if you roll the bite, your hunger goes up, and if you hit your hunger level, I mean, so you get stronger until you hit that your max hunger where you're ravishing and the only thing you can do is your next action is eat someone. And if you don't do that by the end of your turn, you take damage.
Yes.
Um, but I love the scenarios and how they add just different objectives you have to complete. The amount of like if if someone's like, "Oh, I want to play this character," they may not be a zombie, but they're probably a hero, or vice versa. They are most likely in the game. And if they're not a playable character, they're probably a bystander. But they also have that really cool element where you can only eat bystanders, but you get their special power for that. You have zombie traits that you can get that again give you one-time bonuses. There's just so much variety that goes into this game that makes it an absolute blast. Uh, it's a dice chucker, but you are constantly killing and eating people. And as you kill people and gain XP, you get access to new abilities that are unique to you. Except for the second one. Once you're in orange, it's just everyone gets you get an extra action.
Right.
But then when you're in red or when you're in orange, sorry, it's yellow. I think it's yellow, orange, red. The
Yeah.
very
Yellow and red.
last one, you get busted abilities. So there's a lot. And I've only done scenarios from the core game. Oh no, we
Yeah.
did the Galactus one.
Yeah, we did Galactus. Yeah. No, this one is one that it's funny. You were talking at the very beginning how we weren't going to back it, and we started seeing all these things, and then we both dropped like $700 to get everything. It's like
Yeah.
go from nothing to $700. It's like God damn, it made like $9 million.
Yeah. And then you look at Deceased and it's like 600K. And I'm like, that one, I don't care how many updates they would have gotten. I couldn't have cared less.
I actually wanted to do the deceased, um, but they didn't do. It was only half the game
Yeah.
because there wasn't a version where you could play them as humans against like this one has the X added the X-Men part where you could flip and play the actual
Oh, yeah.
human versions against the zombies. So
Hmm.
this is like two games in one. This one because you can do it
Right.
either way. Deceased was just strictly zombies. You
Yeah.
couldn't do the other way around. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want if
Yeah.
I was going to do it, I'll do it all.
That's true. And definitely between the two, I much prefer Marvel over DC. So,
Mhm.
I don't suffer from like, I mean, even though I dropped like as much money as I did on all this, it's like, I don't need I didn't I know you can combine them, I think. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
this is enough. And now that the insert's printed, it made it a lot easier to get it to the table. Um so yeah, this is just absolutely pure fun in a box. The only other because I have Marvel Champions, which was on the last segment, and I have this one. The only other Marvel game that I really kind of want to try, just because of the amount of content it has, and I keep hearing great things, is Marvel United, even though I despise that artwork.
It is it's fun. It's
Yeah.
a lighter game, but I mean
I've
it
heard it
can
has
get,
that same kind of Cthulhu Death May Die plug and play where it's like it's lighter, but you can adjust it as much as you really feel like.
yeah,
So
it wasn't bad. I mean, I don't know. I
yeah,
almost bought it and I was like, no, I have all this other stuff with this.
right.
And
I
yeah,
just want to try it because of all the things I hear about it. But yeah. Anyway, that's uh that's my number 31, Marvel Zombies.
we haven't talked about this yet on my list, so we'll see. Um,
Yeah, it might not even be in your top
yeah,
100.
maybe. All right, my number 31 is a game that has been bouncing around, and I think it's probably going to start. It rose this time, but I could see it starting to fall because it was 46 last year and it was 18 the year before that. So I think it bounced up just because I'd gotten a play or so of it in. But this game was one we talked about a segment or two ago as being like we were talking about bloat.
Oh, okay.
And this one, it might not even been a recording when we were talking about it, but uh, the bloat on this game is starting to affect how if I'm ever going to really play it that much anymore, and that's what the problem is. I love the game when it's on the table and all that stuff, and that is Aeon.
Oh,
Um,
this was not during a video that I can think of. I think
yeah,
we
I
were
think
just
we talked about
casually.
it. We were gaming yesterday, but or the day before, whatever it was, whatever day it
Hmm.
was. But anyway, but yeah, this one rose this time because I did get it played, but it's just like it's such a bear because there's so much out there now, and I
It's
told like
funny because I don't I think I think it's one of the easier ones to set up if you're not doing the campaigns. Like it's a standard deck builder whenever you're just
well,
regularly
no,
playing it.
I don't disagree with that, but I also don't have mine all in wooden cases and organized.
Oh,
Like mine are in the boxes still.
gotcha.
Like so, then it's like I'm pulling from this box or this box or this box. You know, like if I'm doing
Yeah.
that, like I need it. If I had it organized, it might get better. But right now, it's just they keep coming out with stuff faster than I can play it, and I don't even know if they're
Yeah.
done yet. You know, because we just got that Descent stuff.
Yeah, which
I
is
haven't even
really good.
I haven't even touched the Descent stuff yet because I haven't even gotten through the first 3 or 4 other boxes before that.
Yeah, the
So
way they've released it is like clearly in a narrative order, except for past and present, but those are
right.
kind of on their own. Someone did comment on, I think, my Descent video, talking about the order of the games to play them narratively.
Oh really?
Because I mean, the story is intriguing. It's not the best writing; it's serviceable, but it's still the world is fascinating. But yeah, like if you were just to play them as released, it'd be kind of confusing.
Yeah. So we've talked about this numerous years. I mean, this is your deck builder. You're picking a nameless, and you're trying to, and all the namelesses are drastically different,
Hmm.
and you are trying to defeat them before Gravehold dies or you guys die. But it also has the interesting deck building aspect where when you never shuffle your deck. You just which was a hard concept to remember when I was first learning this game.
Right.
The order you discard cards in your discard pile makes a difference because then when you need to draw and you're running out, you just flip it over and go from it. So
Yep.
kind of almost try to set up your deck in a way to be, kind of the bottom part of your deck's gonna be strong. You can kind of
Hmm.
gamble for that. You're opening up portal or not portals. What are those things called? The place where you put the
Um,
spells. I
Portals.
can't.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
thought they were
portal?
portals.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but it didn't sound right when I said it. But yeah, so you're opening those up. Do really powerful
Breaches.
breaches. Yes, okay,
That's
that's what
what
it
they're
was.
called.
I was like, portal didn't sound right, but
Nope, you're right. It didn't. I'm like, it's not rifts either. What's the other? What's the synonym?
but but then there's that, and then there's also the turn order deck is nice because you have your cards in there, and then however whatever the player count is how many nameless cards will be in it, and then you shuffle it up each round and you just flip it, and whoever's turn it is goes. You may get lucky and you know or unlucky and have it go weird. The very first game, the thing that hooked me was the very first game of this I ever played when you taught it to me. It came down to one card flip of the turn order deck. If it was you, if you flipped it, it was you, we won. And if it flipped the bad guy, we were going to lose. And that's kind of what hooked me, just because have it coming down that close. And so many of games come up to that. So many games come close because they've gotten creative with their name list. When we played through both the legacies, and there's just a lot of creativity.
Yeah, and with the new expansion, they've made it to where you can curate the difficulty if you're finding it that you're winning a lot. Even on, I mean, every nameless has an increased difficulty, which I don't know who's doing that. But even if you're winning all the time, with that, they made it to where now there's friends and foes. So foes are kind of like a little minion that the nameless have that just makes it even more difficult. And if you're having a difficult time winning, you can have a friend that gives you extra abilities. Every expansion has just been amazing without it being overly complex.
Right.
Which is, in any card game, usually they just have to keep upping the ante, and they haven't really done that here.
Yeah, I'm kind of wishing they would find a stopping point.
I would be perfectly happy.
And then have a storage solution.
I would be perfectly happy with a final campaign box, like a final Legacy of Gravehold shit, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I completely agree. It is a lot of content, but it's like wrap up the story, storage solution.
Yeah.
Golden.
Because besides LCGs that I have, I think there's more. I have more of this game than anything else as far as releases and everything. Like there's so much of it, and it's like Arkham and Marvel Champions stuff. I have tons of content for, but this one is just like there's so much, and I need to get it played. I know, but it's just like I need something to get it all put into one spot.
Yeah, so. I know there's a storage box on Etsy, but I mean that's forking over money and all that. But yeah, it's it hasn't been on my list yet, so.
Oh yeah, and it's great. Like when I'm playing it, it's one of the best deck builders out there. It's just a matter of getting it played. Like, I got the end of this game because I was like, oh, this is one I can play solo and all that stuff. But this one's actually one where it can be played solo, and I enjoy it solo. It's actually funner to play with the second person. Like when you and I are playing through the content, it's funner than playing it solo, just because that way I can concentrate on mine as the teamwork aspect, and all that stuff. Plus, I don't have to do all the reading.
That's true. Yeah, leave it up to me. the brutal young adult writing they got going on.
Yep.
Yeah, great pick. I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right, everyone. That is it for this segment. I hope you enjoyed. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day this is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.